Okay, so we are happy to take our presentation from Professor Jahangir. Professor Jahangir will be talking to us today about access to microcredit, about microcredit access, about microcredit that's availability of small loans to individuals who do not have access to traditional financial services. He'll be looking at the area of women entrepreneurship, and we know this is an area that is it's very topical to Global South Development Studies group. Women entrepreneurship in Global South, basically referring to the dynamic that actually shapes women entrepreneurship through microcredits. Without further ado, I'll just get Professor Jahangir to go on with his presentation. You have 20 minutes, maybe 15 to present it, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I was actually not ready for making presentation today, but however, let's have this presentation. So this is the area of on microfinance, and title of the presentation, Access to Microcredit and Women's Entrepreneurship Evidence from Bangladesh. Basically, this is a research study that I conducted under a grant from a famous research platform known as Partnership for Economic Policy. The headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya. So I got a grant from them and then to do this study. Basically, what we wanted to look at that in Bangladesh, like a country, Bangladesh, where microfinance started around 50 years ago by Professor Yunus as a research project. And then that research project was turned into a commercial bank, not a commercial bank, development bank. And then from there, the microcredit model that Professor Yunus developed has been replicated in more than 100 countries in the world. So in Bangladesh, almost like 100% of our marginalized households are covered by microfinance institutions in the country. And women are given preference. Why women given preference? Because of the reason that women are more marginalized than men, and they're more economically vulnerable. To empower them, they have been given preference in giving microcredit loans. So I'm a professor. Basically, let me say a few words about me. I'm a professor and chairman of the Department of Finance in the Department of Finance at the University of Dhaka. I have also a research center under the University of Dhaka. This center is known as Center for Microfinance and Development. I'm the executive director of the center. So this is the outline. Okay, basically, the question is why microfinance is important. Basically, we know that women are not given loans by the commercial banks, formal commercial banks, because of the reason that women do not, basically women, those who are from poor families, marginalized families, they do not have enough collateral to give to the commercial banks. And you know that due to the credit risk reason, banks ask borrowers to give collaterals, to minimize the risk that they assume for giving a loan. And that's why they ask the borrowers to provide them with the collateral. But the point is that poor people and especially women do not have that collateral. That's why they don't get it. And apart from that, the rigid, cumbersome, and bureaucratic procedure of lending also are the reasons behind not allowing poor people and especially women to get access to loans in the formal sector, formal commercial sector. And another thing is a literacy requirement also, make poor people away from the formal sector because many of them are illiterate. And another thing is that women and poor people have access to another source, which is informal source, money lenders. But we know that money lenders are very exploitative, very much exploitative. Interest rates are very high, sometimes 3 to 5% per month. So that's why it is not even a credible source for them. So keeping this in mind, Professor Yunus actually started a STRAJ because he was a professor at that time at university in a city in Bangladesh. Beside that university, there was a village, and in these people, he started this research project, action research project. And he found that most of the poor people, especially women, they were dependent on money lenders to have their raw materials for doing their production, or making some handicrafts which they used to sell in the market. And due to that reason, they were exploited by those money lenders, and they remain marginalized, for a long period of time. Considering that, he thought about having a small credit program, small loans to giving them without collateral. And from that idea, the whole thing of microfinance has evolved, has been developed. So that research was turned into a development back in 1986, and from there it has become a very popular poverty alleviation model all over the world. And this model has been replicated in more than 100 countries in the world. Okay. So if you look at the access to current access to loans in the commercial banking sector, you are going to see that access to credit for women is very less. So even if you look at the table, you can see that discrimination is happening to the women, not only in the commercial banks, even in the other banks. If you look at the distribution, you're going to see that in 2013, 98%, almost 97% of the borrowers were male, and only around 3% members were women. So this is the difference, the divide, gender divide in the formal sector in terms of accessing loans and credit. So under the microfinance, also there are different services. Microfinance institutions have got microcredit loans, they have got savings, they have got insurance program, and they have now money transfer system. And there are different types of organizations working under the microfinance system, microfinance system, and these are development banks, NGOs, cooperative banks, even commercial banks are now playing a big role in the microfinance sector. In Bangladesh, if we look at the distribution actually in Bangladesh, the top 3 organizations occupy the major portion of the market, whereas the remaining other institutions only contribute a very insignificant portion of the microcredit market, the market loans. So now, if we look at the microfinance thing and look at how does it actually help, if we look at the literature, we have seen that microcredit has been regarded as one of the success stories in terms of helping people to overcome or alleviate poverty. But there is a controversy actually. Some of the studies have found that microcredit doesn't work that much. Some of the studies have found that microcredit has actually failed to reach the poorest of the poor. But in terms of the number, the majority of the studies have said that microcredit works. It helps people to overcome poverty. So microcredit is basically small loans. It starts from around 50 to maximum amount goes to like $2,000 to $3,000 in Bangladesh now at this moment. And the main characteristics of this microcredit thing is that it's installment based. That means borrow, and the thing is that I have already mentioned the borrowers do not require giving providing collateral with the commercial banks. So this is basically a installment based loan system, and it's collateral free. these are the points that I have already mentioned. So these are the characteristics. This installment based, is group based lending. Before microcredit was a joint liability system. That means for getting a loan, you have to join a group of 5, and microcredit loan used to be given to that group. That means under the system, if any of the group members fails to repay the loan, then other members in the group are liable, are responsible for making that payment on behalf of that defaulted borrower. So this is the system that we call it in microcredit literature, we call it joint liability system. And under the microcredit system, thing that all the borrowers require saving. That means it's mandatory, and all the borrowers require following a very strict discipline in terms of receiving loans and repaying the loans. And all the activities of the borrowers are supervised, are monitored by the loan officers. And the main characteristics, actually, if you try to understand what's the big difference between commercial bank loans and that microcredit loans. Under the commercial banking system, borrowers actually go to the bank. On the other hand, in the microfinance system, the financial institution, that microfinance institution actually go to the borrowers to give loans. Usually what happens in a branch, there are a lot of centers under which the borrower members are associated with. And then in a center, every week there is a meeting that all the members are required attending that meeting. And during the weekly meeting, all the microcredit loans are dispersed. That means disbursements are made during that meeting. So that means the difference is that in the commercial banking sector, all the borrowers require going to the branch to get the loan. But on the other hand, in the microfinance system, the bank goes to the borrowers. And in the microfinance system, apart from giving loans, there are other services as well. Sometimes, health services are given, education services are given, marketing services are given, inputs are provided with. So we call it credit plus model. That means apart from credit, other services are also given. This is the current employment scenario. Again, if you look at it, that there is a huge gender divide in the employment sector as well. Women's economic participation is significantly lower than that of men. So basically, the main motivation of this study is to look at whether giving a microcredit loan to a women borrower enables her to become an entrepreneur or not. This is the main objective of doing this research. So I have already mentioned that in terms of the literature, we have seen that microcredit loans are seen as effective in terms of reducing poverty, in terms of helping households to give better education to the children, in terms of having better health services. Also, some of the studies have shown that it helps members to improve their employment condition. Okay, but there are some studies. For example, I can cite six of the studies conducted by Nobel laureate Abhijit Banerjee. Those studies were done under the experimental method. That means following the randomized control trial method. So in those studies, what they have seen that the employment thing is not the scenario, doesn't change that much. And on the other hand, giving microcredit loan doesn't improve the profitability of the businesses. So these are the mixed empirical evidences that we have from the literature. So with respect to research question, this is the research question: does access to microcredit contribute to the development of women entrepreneurship? And then objective of the study is to see whether access to microcredit has positive impact on women's employment condition, that means entrepreneurship status. So this is basically econometric thing. I'm not discuss this thing that much because some of the people in the audience are actually not that much familiar with the econometric estimation or jargons of econometrics. So basically the thing is that what I can say in general terms is that in economics, basically assessing the impacts of development interventions is one of the most difficult things in social science, basically. An assessment of the impact of a development intervention is very problematic because of the reason that we cannot truly follow a design which helps us to make the assessment properly because of the reason that we cannot put people in the labs to see how does a development intervention impacts them. But scientists can do it. Scientists can create a labor environment to see how an intervention affects the targeted thing. For example, if a research develops a fish feed and he can have a or she can have a labor environment to see whether giving that fish feed contributes to the positively increasing the size of the fish. So they can do it through creating a labor environment. But we human beings, for us, it is not possible to put human beings in the labor environment. That's why a lot of things actually happen which contaminate the whole intervention. And until unless we can get rid of those contaminations, we cannot truly assess the impact of the development intervention. That's the problem. So in econometrics, in economics, we actually call it endogeneity. Endogeneity. So basically, this is an equation which we are trying to estimate. This is basically the dependent variable, which is the entrepreneurial status of the women. These are the household characteristics that also affect the entrepreneurial status. These are the local characteristics, characteristics of the locality, which the borrower, the women borrower belongs to. That characteristic, and this is the actually the main target variable, microcredit. This is the microcredit variable, and this variable is going to tell us what is the impact. But our argument is that from the econometric point of view, this calculation is not going to give us efficient calculations because this the microcredit variable is actually not fulfilling the conditions, econometric conditions. That's why we have to run the second equation jointly, simultaneously. Then if we run these two equations jointly, in the second equation, this microcredit variable is actually becoming a dependent variable. So ultimately, jointly running these two equations will give us efficient results. So I don't go to the details of it because it's more actually mathematical thing. But I can interpret the results so that you understand what does it mean. So in this calculation, what we have done, we have used a data set which has been developed by the government of Bangladesh, and this data set covers all areas of Bangladesh. So basically, this is a very representative sample, and it has got around 12,000 households. That means 12,240 households. So we have covered all these households, which are from all parts of, that means covering all parts of Bangladesh. So from this household, what we have done, we have identified adults, male adults and female adults. And then we have looked at how this microcredit intervention contributes to the employment, self-employment status, the entrepreneurial status of male as well as female. Because when you say that we are going to assess the impact of microcredit access on women's entrepreneurial status, then we have to look at men's entrepreneurial as well to understand whether it is more effective, that means giving loans to women, whether it is more effective than giving loans to male members. So that's why we have made a comparison. If you look at the entrepreneurial thing, you can easily say that still that women are not that much participating in the entrepreneurial sector. That means women are not owning businesses that much, because we know that the reason that our socio-cultural characteristics, actually the norms, do not allow women to do businesses by themselves or going to the market or participating in the market. So it's not actually more, it's not, I don't consider that as a religious phenomenon more, that rather than I call it that it's more cultural phenomenon. And due to the cultural things, socio-cultural characteristics, women are not allowed, or society or societal things do not want to see women to participate in the entrepreneurial activities, or the social cultural characteristics are not conducive to start businesses by women in a country like Bangladesh. So these are the results. Basically, what we have found from the estimations is that for women, it is actually positive. It is positive, and it helps women to start a business. It has got positive impact and significant impact. But when we make a comparison between male entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs, we can see that for male it is more effective. So if you look at the coefficients, this one, and we'll go to the next slide, see what happens to men entrepreneurship. Then we'll see that the coefficient for men is much higher. Okay, so in this, what happens? We have got several models. Basically, this is the simple one. Then this is the model in which we have tried to take away the contamination, which we call endogeneity. We have taken it out, and we have made a comparison between this simple one and the one that doesn't have that endogeneity. But both the models show that microcredit is effective. Okay. So in the third man, so if you can see that there are four models that have been estimated by me, and in all these four models, actually microcredit participation or microcredit loan has got two dimensions. We have considered two dimensions. One is that we have taken a dummy variable in which the outcomes are binary, whether the borrower, the individual, at an individual is participating in the microcredit program or not. And we have also taken, in another model, we have taken the amount of microcredit loan taken by the individual. Okay, so from both the variables, we are getting the same result. That means microcredit is effective for women, also for effective for male. And I've already mentioned that with respect to the size of the effect or the magnitude of the positive effect, we can see that for male it is much higher. For female, the impact is much lower. Why? I have already mentioned that only giving a loan doesn't actually make women immediately entrepreneurs or doesn't help her to become entrepreneur, because apart from a loan, there are so many other factors which also influence the entrepreneur starts. So until unless we can actually change those other factors, and which are mostly socio-cultural things, if we do not change those things, microcredit is not going to be that much effective for women. But with respect to socio-cultural things, men are actually better off. Men are not constrained by socio-cultural things, aspects, in terms of becoming entrepreneurs or in terms of owning businesses. Because you see, if you look at our in the global south, if you look at women, society has actually given some gender roles to them, like staying at home, looking after the children, looking after the household activities, rearing livestock. These are the activities. So ultimately, most of the time they have to spend for doing things at home. So they don't have enough time to go out and do their own things, to start a business, or going to the input markets to buy raw materials to do the production, and going again to the market to sell their outputs. So this is the reason why microcredit is seen or estimated as less effective for women than men. So let's go to for men. I've already mentioned that these coefficients are actually much higher. This is the marginal impact. This is the coefficient value. In all the models, we have seen the same thing. Okay. So after seeing that microcredit is effective and it is basically helping men and women both to become entrepreneurs, but we have seen, I have already mentioned that it is more effective for men than women. Then we looked at what happens actually. We have seen from the descriptive studies that compared to the number of loan receivers, the business ownership extent is much lower among women. So what is actually happening? If they do not, what is expected in the microfinance thing, in microfinance sector, that we consider that women are getting loans to start their own businesses. This is the main objective of microcredit, that to empower women, to enable them to do some economic activities, income generating activities, to make them economically empowered. Okay, so if the thing is that if we see that the number of business ownership is significantly lower among women than men, then what do they with their loans? So we want to look at it. So what we did actually indirectly looked at whether women are handing over their loans to their male adults. So we have added a new variable. If you look at it, total female microcredit loan amount, whether household has at least one female microcredit loan receiver. These two variables are actually indirectly examining whether women are taking loans, but they are handing over their loans to male adults. Then the results show that actually women are doing that. Rather than doing their own businesses, start their own businesses, they are handing over their loans to male adult members. I do not actually see negatively, because you see, if we consider a household as a unit and all the members of that unit are supposed to do things which are going to maximize the welfare of the household. If a female member thinks that giving her loan to her husband or to her son, to her brother, is going to maximize the welfare of the household, then I'm sure, and it is wise for her even to do that thing. So now the question is why that thing happens. Because of the reason that I have already mentioned, the socio-cultural aspects actually do not help women to successfully, profitably do their businesses, own businesses. So ultimately, what happens? and from the empirical evidences from all over the world, we have seen that women businesses are less profitable all over the world. So why? Because they have got a lot of social constraints. They have less access to input markets. They have less access to output markets, to the markets to go to, and they have less, flexibility with respect to time. Okay, so that's why they cannot run businesses properly, comfortably, and independently, and that's why their businesses are less profitable than businesses of male members. So that's why, from the welfare perspective, household welfare perspective, I think it is wise for them to hand over their loans to household members. So finally, what I can say that from the from the evidences from the results that ultimately women are not using the loans, and that microcredit programs are not helping that much women to become entrepreneurs. It's not, with respect to economic empowerment, it's not that making them that much economically empowered. But overall, from the overall perspective, actually microcredit is contributing to the household welfare. It is helping, though it's not helping women members, but it's helping male members to own businesses, run businesses profitably. But from the policy perspective, if we want to improve, the ability of microcredit programs to help women to become more economically empowered, as well as to own more businesses, then what we need to do, we have to design the whole model of microcredit, redesign the whole model of microcredit system, because the current system is not helping them. Simply giving a loan doesn't help, is not enough. We have to provide other services. We have to change the social cultural norms. And if we do not do that, ultimately claiming that microcredit loans are making women entrepreneurs and economically empowerment is not actually, it's not that much true, and it doesn't work that much. So these are the concluding comments from me. Now I request the audience to.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Prof. Let me also try to begin to say to thank everyone for joining us today for this insightful talk. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation and gained very valuable knowledge. I have. So before we proceed to open up the floor, I would like to once more apologize for the mix-up that occurred earlier. Unfortunately, our scheduled presenter was unable to join us, even though he's with us now. He had a serious challenge in Harare with his internet, but we're extremely grateful for Professor Jahangir for stepping in at the last minute to deliver this very beautiful presentation on access to microcredit and women entrepreneurship in the Global South with evidence from Bangladesh. Professor Jahangir's presentation has been incredibly informative and provided us with hopefully valuable insight into the challenges and opportunities that women entrepreneurs face in Global South, given that it's one of the biggest centers of finance, foreign direct finance in our countries. The evidence he presented from Bangladesh is particularly very enlightening. He highlights very, very pertinent issues that actually challenge received wisdom. Now, I would like to open up the floor for questions. If you have any queries or thoughts regarding his presentation, please feel free to raise your hands or type your question in the chat box. But to kickstart the discussion, I would take the privilege of being the moderator here, and I would ask the first question to Professor Jahangir. Now, this is very interesting. You have just challenged received wisdom about microcredits and women entrepreneurship, particularly in the global south. And we're talking about one of the most populous countries we have in Asia. Now, with what you have said, how do you see the future of microcredit and women entrepreneurship in the global south? I mean, if you can just briefly address that, maybe how do you want it? Do you want all the questions first, or
No, okay.
do you want all the, or you take it or you take it as it comes? And then the second, well, is just to join to that. What do you think what do you think is the key challenge that needs to but what is the key challenge that needs to be addressed to ensure sustainable growth and development in the field of microcredit and women entrepreneurship? Thank you very much. So how do you want to take the questions you said?
Okay, I think one Noma Zulu has raised his hand. Could you please ask your question?
Thank you, Professor Jahangir, for the nice presentation, and thank you to you, Program Director. I would like to know how this perception about women has affected the economic sectors that they are participating on, and also the sizes of their businesses. That would be an issue maybe to other countries as well. I'm very worried as a woman in Global South that there is still such perceptions within our communities about us. And then the second thing is, should we encourage co-owning of businesses between men and women to try and build first the confidence of women in running businesses, and also trying to shift the perception of the society about women owning businesses? Thank you, Prof.
So another hand, Chidinma.
We have an Chidinma.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I typed my question. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you typed
Thanks,
your
Prof.
question. So I'm going to read Chidinma's question. She said, what is the role of trade support institution in facilitating credit for microfinance on behalf of women entrepreneurs? That's a
Okay,
nice one.
so I take these questions first. Basically, regarding the future is enormous, because already I have mentioned that all the countries in the world have got this microcredit model, have implemented this microcredit model. So especially in the global south, all the countries have microcredit institutions. So future is enormous, because we haven't been able to overcome the problem of credit risk related problems like, adverse selection and moral hazard in the banking sector. How to solve these two problems, with respect to giving loans to poor people and women. Unless we can come out with some other options, still the only option is to give microcredit loans to women and poor people. So future is enormous. Day by day, the size of the microcredit markets all over the world, different countries, is going to increase, for sure. But the point is that I have already mentioned one problem is still there. Microfinance institutions haven't been able to reach the poorest of the poor. Those who are the poorest among the poor, they haven't been they still don't get loan even from the microfinance institutions. So they are not getting loans even for microfinance institution for poorest of the poor. So we have got other avenues, actually other even sectors in the society to expand the businesses of microfinance institutions in the future. So, and there will be a lot of new innovations in the microfinance sector from the financial fintech perspective. That means finance and technology perspective, that new avenues will come and new products will be developed, and the microfinance institution will grow for sure. Regarding the size of the women businesses, I can tell you that the evidences that we have from the literature from different parts of the world, from all over the world, the evidences show that the sizes are small. That means relatively the sizes of the businesses of women are small compared to the sizes of the businesses of men all over the world. With respect to profitability, I have already mentioned the profitability of female-owned businesses is less than the profitability of the businesses of male. This evidence is also very commonly found from different parts of the world. Regarding the co-ownership, yes, that could be a solution actually, because if a co owned by a male as well as a female member, then what happens? That male member has got better access to markets, especially input markets and that output markets, and then that will enable that business to grow better, more than a business solely owned by a female member. Co-ownership is going to, again, what you have said, I do agree with you that a co-ownership is going to build the confidence of the female owner in terms of managing the business, in terms of having access to the markets. So the confidence will grow, and that will help actually, and that will help the female member even to learn how to manage the business. With respect to trade facilitation services, actually, we haven't been able to that much to connect our microfinance borrowers with the different trade bodies yet. That's a problem, big problem, and that's why even female business owners, when they, produce goods and services, they do not get the proper access to the market, and they do not know actually how to do the marketing, how to sell their products. So this hasn't happened. Right now, Bangladesh government is actually running a project in which they are trying to connect these small producers with the export promotion bodies, as well as the associations that promote this export thing in different countries, or especially in Bangladesh. So unless we are able to do that thing, women are not going to be able to own the businesses successfully as well as sustainably run their businesses. Any more questions?
I think there's another question on the chat box.
Okay, let me see it. I don't see it. Michael, so what is the broader implications of promoting women's entrepreneurship in the global south, both for individual women and the wider community? Of course, we know that if we help women to start businesses, that is much more beneficial with respect to household welfare. Even some of the papers, they claim that when income of female members goes up, it contributes more to household welfare than when income level of the male members goes up. So if we help women to become entrepreneurs, that has got a lot of implications. With respect to household welfare, is going to contribute a lot. With respect to the growth and development of the country, is going to contribute a lot as well, because still we haven't been able to incorporate the majority of women into the economic activities of the country. It's not only in Bangladesh, in other countries as well. So when we'll be able to do that, that will promote our growth, that will contribute to more development. That's for sure will happen. And for the global south, we need to do this thing in a better way, because still we are lagging behind. And then still I can tell you that our policymakers are actually not focusing that much on this issue, and they're doing actually on paper, they're taking a lot of programs or projects, but those projects are not really impacting the thing properly. That's the point.
I think that, Prof, from your result, you said women did not take opportunity of loans. Do you consider the collateral demand of the bank?
No. Since we are talking about microfinance, in the microfinance sector, you don't require giving collaterals. So they are taking loans, but they are not utilizing those loans mostly, because I have already mentioned that due to the gender role, socio-cultural norms, that they actually don't get enough time or enough opportunities to use their loans. But with respect to the formal sector, I have already mentioned that due to the collateral thing, women, not only women, even poor people, male household, from poor households also do not get loans from the formal sector commercial banks due to the collateral requirement.
Okay, I think we're right there, just 3 minutes past the hour. I think we've met. Thank you. We're there now. And if there's any more questions, I haven't seen. There's also inquiry about joining. I'm going to share on the link now, on the chat, a link where you can join the study group. We do this monthly, and send your request to do that, and then we would look at it. But I think we're right on the hour. Thank you to our presenter for sharing your insight and research on access to microcredit and women entrepreneurship in the global south. The evidence from Bangladesh, I think, is very telling and very interesting. We appreciate your time and effort in coming in with this presentation at the last minute, and thank you very much. Your work, I believe, sheds light on very important issues that affect millions of women worldwide, but particularly in the global south. We're grateful for the opportunity to learn from you today, as always, Professor Jahangir. And as we come to the end of our webinar today, I would like to thank everyone who has participated and contributed to the success of this, and also to say to Mr. Vincent, don't beat yourself. It's fine. We would look at it again. Thank you very much. Your engagement and enthusiasm have made this webinar a very valuable learning experience for us. We hope that we're providing this platform for meaningful discussion and insight into latest researches on the field of development studies and the intersections. We look forward to continuing this conversation and exploring new ideas from the Global South. Thank you again to our presenter, to all our attendees. We wish you all the best in your academic pursuit, and hope to see you again next month. Thank you very much.
Before I leave, I would like to request everybody to join the Development Studies Association. It's free for the people from the developing countries, from the Global South. Please join the association. It has got a lot of benefits, and through joining this association, we'll get connected to the academia as well as policymakers from the Global South as well as from the Global North. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining today's lecture and giving me opportunity at the last moment to present. And thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. We wish you all the best. We will put the link on I'll post the link now on the chat. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah.